Hi everyone, let's go to question number 11 altogether. It says, if 3x plus 5 equals 8 for some variable x, determine the value of x that satisfies the given equation. I actually wrote down 3 things for think through. I want you to read it through and I'll explain it accordingly in this video lecture. All right, so 3x plus 5. 3x plus 5 equals 8. Okay. So first, in order to solve for this equation, we need to get a solution. We need to get the x value that satisfies the given equation. Now, let's try to think about what happens if I plug x equals 3. Well, if I plug x equals 3, it wouldn't work out, right? So we can try some possible values, and we gotta think about whether we get one solution, we get lots of solutions, or we get 2 solutions. But first off, this is something called a linear equation. Now, linear equations usually have one solution per equations, right? So here we go. We're going to isolate the variable by subtracting 5. Ooh, so can I subtract 5? But if I subtract 5 out there, it's going to be same thing as subtracting 5 onto the left side and the right side altogether. Now, if I subtract those 5 onto the left side, it seems like positive 5 and negative 5. It seems like positive 5 and negative 5, somehow that they get canceled. So positive 5 and negative 5 will cancel because of the fact that these 2 numbers are inverses, additive inverses, okay? So if I get 3x, because they get canceled, we're left with positive 3. Now we're using translation property from first to the second. So I've been using something called translation property. And I can actually go on to some simplifications and using additive inverses and whatever, right? Additive inverse. Now, what if I go on to x equals 1? Well, I know that x equals 1. I think most of you who are watching this video right now are going to say x equals 1. But how do I show that is true? Well, you can plug and say, yeah, it works. But is there some kind of algebraic properties that we'd better explain? Well, there must be something. Using the translation property as we listed in the above. Well, we can multiply 1/3, and we can multiply 1/3 to both hand sides. And if you multiply 1/3 to both hand sides, well, I can change the order of grouping, order of parentheses. And of course, this will be 1. Now, what has happened? There are multiple things that have happened in this line switches. So the first thing that I can argue is that we actually get something called associative property. Order, parentheses gets changed. That means associative property, right? Associative property. And at the same time, 1/3 times 3 is going to be multiplicative inverse. Okay, so we have multiplicative inverse that are multiplied by one another. We get 1. So you can check that. Oh, 1 times x equals 1. So x equals 1. So you can say that, yeah, we get multiplicative inverse. Okay, so we just solved this linear equation. Now I just want to think about the think-through processes. Can we see some kind of remainder when 3x plus 5, is divided out by 3? Well, I can see this as writing it down in that form. Well, here's the remainder that matters. This got to be called as quotient, but the remainder that you see here has to be smaller than 3, but got to be at least 0. So we have remainder of 2. What happens if I divide 8 by 3? We get the remainder of 2. Now, we have the same remainder. That's why we get an integer solution. And that shall be it.